Yeah, holding the Ramo at the end on page 313. Vimkara osa b'tzibor. They read it in a public setting with a minyan. Ve'ezu yochad lo shmo. And there was one person, he didn't hear it. He didn't have Kriyas Megillah. Yuchal likros afilu chatchilu biyochid. That person, we said, l'chatchilu, you should try to put together a minyan. Because that's what? Pursuing the Yisrael. But he says, let's say the community, they read the Megillah, and there was one person, he didn't hear it. Should he gather 10 people that he should read it now? They heard it. The ones, they're ready. Yuchal likros afilu chatchilu biyochid. Hol v'korno sab'osa ir ba'asora. He says he could read it l'chatchilo. He doesn't have to put together a minyan, because he shouldn't say b'korin also. He should say b'koru also. Because they're reading it in the community with a minyan. Sheyochari osa bizmano tzorch levorech aleo. Okay, see, when an individual reads the Megillah, although he's reading it not within a minyan, he says the bracha. Let's see, Mishna Berura Samach Daled l'chatchilo biyochid. Anes kvarnis parsei. Even though language of the Ramos is a little difficult. He says, Hove korin osa bosir. Korin is hove. Because they're reading it. Once you're at home, they're reading in shul, because you're reading it at this moment, they're reading it, is a minyan reading the Megillah. Right? I mean, the Ramos speaking about a case, the Tzibur already read the Megillah, and he hadn't read it yet. So the question is, should he put together a minyan for his personal reading, or should he not? He says, no, l'chatchili doesn't. Why? So, yeah, it's the only way to understand, because since in this community it's already been publicized, the miracle, so even though for himself, he's going to read it in a private setting, it does make a difference. Lekrak mishum bravam, so why should you put it together? Bravam adres melech, lo machichinele lemichna pasoro. We don't want to burden him that he should gather 10 people. He says, although we rule that a person has a minyan in his house, right? He says, but we do. We find that when it's a vatl Talmud Torah mikra Megillah, you interrupt it even for Rav HaMachas Melech. If in your house you have a smaller group and you go to shul, you have a larger group, and it's going to entail wasting more time, spending more time, you do it. So here also, how can we say the individual, although he could put it together, we say it's not necessary. It's not necessary to create Rav HaMadras Melech. Hosam la tzibur mezuman lefanov. Masha enkeid hocha lasas tzibur ein mechuyuv. There we're speaking about just shifting the tzibur. Here it's gathering the people. I'm the Frame Shkosov Din Zeh Shebi Ramo B'Shem Orz Chaim Ein Muskim L'Shar Poskim. He says this halacha is not agreed upon by other poskim. L'chein apachai gavno. Therefore, if an individual hadn't read the Megillah and the others had, Yahadir Achasor Anoshim. His famous story with the Vilna Gaon. You know, the Vilna Gaon, for many years he traveled incognito. Nobody knew who he was. He concealed who he was. He went to Golus for a number of years. So some people here disappear for a while. You know, you never know why they're not here. So the Vilna Gaon went into Golus. Famous story. He was in Germany. So when he went to Germany, we traveled with the beggars. He dressed like a beggar. Nobody knew who he was. And he was hosted by Rabbi Paul Hamburger. Paul Hamburger was one of the Gedolim of the generation. He was from Hamburger. Paul Hamburger. And he was sitting at his table Friday night, and he didn't say much. And Paul Hamburger noticed immediately something special about him. Because he said some Divrei Torah, and the Vilna Gaon just made a motion with his face and said one word, and he understood this man is something special. And you have to be special to recognize somebody special. Otherwise, you don't recognize him. So that night, he provided sleeping quarters for the Vilna Gaon, and there was a blanket. The Vilna Gaon slept. He didn't cover himself with the blanket, and the blanket, according to certain shitas, Rishonim, was shatnez. It was wool, but it had some threads. But not according to others, there were leniencies that it wasn't shatnez. And as the Vilna Gaon was sleeping, and he understood he didn't know who he was, he went and he covered the Vilna Gaon with the blanket. So as the Vilna Gaon was sleeping, he kicks the blanket off. He says, "Shatnish lefishita saramba." Understand? It's like a person is sleeping. You put a pin into him. You know, he's gonna react to the pain. That was the Vilna Gaon. Okay. So the Vilna Gaon was traveling incognito, and he had money with him, and he always was makbid to have Kriyas Megillah with a minyan. And he meets a bunch of young urchins, but they were Jewish boys. And he says, "Look, I have to read the Megillah. I'll read it. Just be present." And he gave each one a gold coin. Okay, and he trusted them that they were going to remain there and wait till he finishes reading the Megillah. He gives each one a gold coin. He starts reading. 50% through the Megillah, they disappear. Now they left. They got their money. They're out. We're talking about these kids they were hooligans, but they were Jewish boys. His whole life, he agonized over that reading. He did not read with a minyan. Understand? That was the Vilna Gaon. It says others they disagree with the Ramah. That even if you could put it together, you should put it together. That's Baruch Madras Melech. Even though Yotzei. But if you could be Yotzei L'chatchila, that's not L'chatchila without a minyan. No, it's not different. You ask them. You know, they could say yes, they could say no. No. No, but he personally did. So we'll say for the individual, if you're able to put it together, should you're not. So the others disagree with the Ramah, and they said that you should. If you could create Rav Madras Melech, you should create Rav Madras Melech. Minyan 10. That's Rav Madras Melech, minimally, because that's Pesumi Nisa. You're creating a public setting for the reading of the Megillah. That's because it's even more. Nobody read it. Nobody read it. Right? To what? Any mitzvah that you could do in a larger setting? No, but there's Rav Hamadras Melech, for Kiddush, for many things for Rav Hamadras Melech. You have it. Mishna says you have a larger tzibur, davening in a shul. A minyan is sufficient, but if you could daven in a larger minyan and everything's equal, assuming where everything's equal, you should go to the larger shul. If a person can't put together 10, if you're not reading it on your day, go krachen and mukofin chomo dimsram yom tesov shalem b'Shabbos, korsa b'erev Shabbos, ukori osa b'yochid lo yivorech oleo b'chol gavni, kanal b'siv cotton sefalev. Okay. The writing of the Megillah and sewing the various parchments together. The gut, you can't use, the Raisa says in Megillah, you can't use a thread that's made of linen thread. It's the same gut that's used to stitch a Sefer Torah together. A kos Megillah ela b'dio. Dio is a certain type of ink. Ala gvil or ala klaf. The parchment is processed a certain way. Because Sefer Torah, the laws of Sefer Torah, whatever the laws that pertain to the writing of the Sefer Torah materials are identical to the Megillah. In Ksova b'me'afotzim, the kantum k'sheva. So you have me'afotzim. They use gall nuts. They cook it up, and the water has like a brownish color, dark color. If you use that water, the Mishnah says in Gittin that when you write a get, and it has to be written the way where it can be forged. Let's say you can make an erasure on the parchment, and you won't recognize there's an erasure. It's not a good get. It's not a valid get. So the Gemara says that if the parchment is treated with me'afotzi, that means it has like a darkened color. So because it has like a coating on it, if you make an erasure, immediately you can notice because it has this coating on it. That's the me'afotzim kantum cheiro. Ksova b'shamini tzivonim. If a person would use some other kind of ink, other color, red ink, writes Megillah, red ink, gold ink, whatever, green, psula. Tzricha sirtut. Now, Ketor Atzma. Now, if you have to take a look at a mezuzah or a Sefer Torah, the lines are scored. Right? You notice. Now, a Sefer Torah b'di'evet, if it's not scored, it's valid. A mezuzah, if it doesn't have sirtut, it's possible. Where it says it's aloch mishulchan, it's basically it's aloch mishum Sinai. Mezuzah tzarich sirtut. A mezuzah has to be scored, and when we say scoring, it's whatever person writes the mezuzah and afterwards he scores it. He inserts the indentations, the lines, right? And afterwards, it's not valid. It has to be. It's so it has to be prior to the writing. The parchment has to be scored. Okay, that's scored. Okay, so the Sefer Torah, it's only l'chatchila. Rishonim say Sefer Torah, it's for hiddur mitzvah, because if you have lines, the sofer can write straight. The line is a straight line. It's not, so that guarantees it's hiddur mitzvah. But for mezuzah, it's what? It's possible. So the same thing. Megillah needs sirtut, like the Torah itself. So that means if a person doesn't put sirtut in a Megillah, as the Sefer Torah is kosher, it would be kosher by the Eved. So the Megillah would also be kosher by the Eved. Now, the parchments of the Sefer Torah have to be processed when you put it into the solution from the height to the parchment. It has to be done l'shem mitzvah Sefer Torah. If it's not valid. What about the parchment for the Megillah? It doesn't have to be done for the sake of the writing of the Megillah. No, we say it's like a Sefer Torah. Just whatever the laws pertain to the parchments and the writing of Sefer Torah are identical to the Megillah. So also, it has to be done lishmo. No, just says ordained at Sinai. It's a question. It's a question of the Gemara. We rule halacha l'mishum Sinai. No. The Gemara says halacha l'mishum Sinai. Why tefillin square? Why they black? Right? Halacha l'mishum Sinai. Why doesn't say anything that the knot should be a shin and a dalet and a yud? Doesn't say that. Halacha l'mishum Sinai. It's Gemara Shabbos. Right? How do you know the knot behind the sharosh is a dalid or a shin or whatever it is, or the shin on the bias? Doesn't say it mentioned. It's halach l'mishum Sinai. Similarly, the scoring of the parchment of the mezuzah halach l'mishum Sinai.
So the preparing of the parchment, you say that you're preparing it for the sake of a mitzvah. Is that work or
Specifically for this, specifically for the Megillah. I mean, what about if you do it for the Torah? Could you use that same parchment for Megillah? Then it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. You know, it's interesting. A number of years ago, we had a Sefer Torah written for Rebbe Yosef, Zech Tzak Lebrocha. Somebody gave Rebbe Yosef 2 Sefer Torah. One was already almost completed, a large one, and one that was written from very beginning till the end, and it was a smaller Sefer Torah, not very small. It was a smaller size Sefer Torah. And the sofer was an Englishman, very good sofer. And Rebbe Yosef, being the Posek Ador, being who he was, he had all his chumras, the way certain letters have to be formed, the way parchment has to be processed, what you have to think about when you do it. And he would consult Rebbe Yosef he did nothing without first consulting with him. And his Sefer Torah has every conceivable chumrah that he felt was a necessity, which was a necessity. Okay? So the person, when he wrote the Sefer Torah, he was priding himself. And I knew what the person who was his honor to give to Rebbe Yosef, what he's paying for it. So I said to him, you know something? You should do this. You should pay to write the Sefer to Rebbe Yosef, because the reputation you're going to have out there, and you're going to be so sought out after this, you know, you shouldn't be charging for this. You should even be paying to write the Sefer Torah. You know, firstly, to have the schus, to continuously have access to Rebbe Yosef, to consult with him, and he's always available, because you're writing his Sefer Torah. Now, this is what I told him. As he came to the writing, so one of my sons was there, and they honored him with a letter to write in the Sefer Torah. So my son writes with his left hand, this particular son. Does other things with the writing, he writes with his left hand. So there's a certain person by Rebbe Yosef who says, somebody says, quoted a certain opinion, that, just like by the Avodah, the Mishamikshah Kohen, who does the Avodah with his left hand, it's not valid. A lefty, even though b'di'evet it's valid, but al-Chatchila should not write a letter in Sefer Torah. That was this person. Therefore, he wanted to say, my son wasn't qualified. So Rabbi Yosha was there. You know, this person, first you have the chutzpah to even say it. Rabbi Yosha was watching. So at the moment Rabbi Yosha hears it, he dismissed the person. He says it's nonsense. There's no basis for it. And that was the end of the story. He wrote the letter. Okay. Continue. Just reading. I have all the psukim, Rabbi Yosha, how he conducted, how he did Siddur Kedushin. Different things, what he did, what he would ask him, but he never ever drank from the cup himself. He never spilled some wine on his hand and licked it. No, never did that. He officiated at a wedding. No, today, years ago also. There's a question. If he says Borpei Agofen, how does he not drink? He gives it to. But so they say over the Reb Chaim Brisker, he would shake the cup a little, have some wine on his hand, and he would lick the wine off his finger, because he said Borpei Agofen. Right? That was today. Everybody's machmir like Reb Chaim Brisker, right? But Reb Moshe, all these people. So here, Reb Yosef, it says it makes it specific. He did not drink. The bracha covers the chosam makala, and there's no footnotes there why, what he relied on, so on and so forth. Many things.
You do that when
You know something, today, unfortunately, when you do things, if you don't meet the standard of what people say, something, it may not be valid. They already pass judgment on you. Yoshev, you're not concerned what they're going to pass judgment on you. One of the Yoshev's, Yoshev's daughter married Reb Chaim Kanevsky. So the Stipler was the father, was his mechutin. Stipler was a zealot that you can't believe, Reb Chaim Kanevsky's father. I mean, he was the brother of the Chazon Ish. Zealot, very. And Reb Yoshev sat on the Bezdin of the Rabbanut. He was one of the leading dayanim on the Bezdin. So somebody goes to the Reb Chaim, to the Stipler, that's Reb Chaim Kanevsky's father, says, take that kind of a chutin. He sits on the Bezdin of the Rabbanut. There's a commentary on Tyrus, it's called the Rash. You need almost a magnifying glass to read it. On every page, there must be about 60 lines. He says, a man who knows Rash on Tyrus by heart, word by word, I have no problem being a dayan for the Rabbanut. He qualifies, I'm not worried about it. That was his response. Again, he dismissed it immediately. So if you're that, you're not worried what people are going to say. Okay.